A Russian submarine surfaced near an American aircraft carrier. What happened next? Imagine the scene, the boundless ocean, the sun shining brightly on calm waters with an armada of warships moving forward. At the center of this fleet is an American aircraft carrier, a majestic giant carrying enough power to change the outcome of any conflict, making it a prime target for an enemy in the event of war. Suddenly, just a few miles away, the surface of the water starts to ripple, as if the ocean itself is coming alive. Rising from the depths is a Russian submarine, a lurking predator that's unexpectedly decided to reveal itself. This scenario seems like something out of a tense spy thriller, but in today's world it could easily become reality. Such an unexpected incident would immediately shatter the illusion of stability, causing the entire world to hold its breath in anticipation of what might happen next. What comes after this? Panic among the aircraft carrier's crew? Emergency negotiations between the fleet's commanders? A missile strike against the Russians? And more importantly, where will it lead in a world where every mistake could cost not just lives, but the future itself? In this video, we'll explore these questions. When a submarine moves through the ocean's depths, it resembles a shadow gliding beneath the water, seemingly invisible and silent to those above. However, this is far from the truth. The Carrier Strike Group, CSG, is not just fighter jets, anti-aircraft missiles, tomahawks, and rapid-fire guns. It's also a complex network of radars and sonars working together as one. The aircraft carrier itself does not have anti-submarine defenses, but the ships that escort it do. Cruisers and destroyers equipped with AN/SQS-53 sonar systems and anti-submarine torpedoes form a protective perimeter around the carrier. But they're not the only line of defense. Anti-submarine aircraft like the P-8 Poseidon and SH-60 Seahawk helicopters also search for submarines far from the carrier. Additionally, a Virginia or Los Angeles-class nuclear-powered attack submarine is always part of the Carrier Strike Group, scanning the ocean depths with its sonar. This makes sneaking up on an American aircraft carrier underwater a very difficult task. Thus, a Russian submarine will likely be detected hundreds of miles away, and the U.S. Carrier Strike Group will immediately go to a heightened state of alert. The crews begin preparing for possible maneuvers or an attack. Anti-submarine defense operators on the ships intensify monitoring efforts, from acoustic signals to infrared data, trying to pinpoint the submarine's course and intentions as accurately as possible. Anti-submarine planes and helicopters are launched, equipped with magnetic anomaly detectors and acoustic buoys that can pick up any sounds made by the submarine, tracking its position and course. These buoys are dropped along the suspected path of the submarine. The key question is whether the submarine is on an aggressive mission or simply patrolling the waters. Depending on its course and actions, the U.S. Carrier Strike Group may begin a show of force or prepare for a possible threat. It's often thought that it's impossible to communicate with a submarine while it's submerged, but that's not entirely true. It depends on the distance and depth of the submarine. Communication can sometimes be established using specialized systems for underwater communication, such as low-frequency communication systems or underwater communication modems. The U.S. may attempt to contact the Russian submarine via international frequencies using ultra-high-frequency communication. This message typically contains a warning or a demand to turn around to avoid further escalation. If no contact is made or the submarine continues to approach, more aggressive measures may be taken. There are several ways to intimidate a submarine without causing actual damage. For instance, depth charges can be detonated along the submarine's path. These charges can be dropped from ships or helicopters along the presumed course of the sub. They're set to explode at a depth that creates a powerful underwater blast, delivering a strong psychological message without causing physical damage. Water carries the explosive shock wave with tremendous force, and the submarine's crew will definitely feel this signal. Additionally, ships or planes can begin active sonar pinging of the submarine. This not only reveals the sub's position, but also sends a clear message. It's been detected and is being monitored. Such maneuvers signal to the submarine's crew that their actions are being tracked and that they're in a potential strike zone. Destroyers and cruisers in the carrier group might engage in aggressive maneuvers, simulating attack approaches or cutting off the submarine's path to force it to change course or surface. All of these actions are designed to make the submarine realize it's been detected, and continuing its maneuvers near American ships could have serious consequences. Even if there were no hostile intentions at that moment, a show of force through detonations and active pursuit might force the submarine to change its course or surface. But what if the Russian submarine stubbornly continues to approach the aircraft carrier? In this case, the situation escalates to a critical point. The carrier strike group goes to its highest level of combat readiness. The aircraft carrier and its escort ships will prepare for a possible attack. At this moment, every anti-submarine defense system is activated. Any further approach by the Russian submarine is seen as potential aggression. The cruisers and destroyers move closer to the submarine's suspected location to encircle it, and if necessary, launch a preemptive strike. Destroyers equipped with the Aegis system and anti-submarine torpedoes provide cover for the aircraft carrier. Before using lethal force, the U.S. will make final attempts to establish contact with the Russian submarine. Stern warnings will be sent via international communication channels and UHF signals. The messages will likely include direct threats of using force if the submarine doesn't change course or surface. Meanwhile, anti-submarine planes and helicopters continue tracking the sub, deploying sonar buoys or dropping noise bombs to increase pressure on the crew. If the warnings go unheeded and the submarine keeps closing in, the U.S. may take more decisive action. First, destroyers or anti-submarine helicopters may drop depth charges very close to the submarine. This is a warning, not a combat strike, but the goal is to make the submarine's crew feel the full force of the underwater blast, causing intense psychological pressure and forcing them to change course or surface. Second, destroyers may simulate an attack on the submarine by moving along its course, demonstrating readiness for a real strike. Aircraft and helicopters will continue to escort the sub, monitoring its every move and signaling that it's locked in their sights. If all measures are exhausted and the submarine continues its aggressive approach, the situation will escalate to a direct military confrontation. At this point, the U.S. may use weapons to neutralize the threat. The first step would be to launch anti-submarine torpedoes from destroyers or helicopters in the area. These torpedoes would be aimed at striking the submarine directly if it's deemed a real threat to the aircraft carrier or its escort ships. Vertical launch systems aboard Nimitz-class destroyers, which are equipped with anti-submarine missiles, may also be deployed. As a result of these actions, the Russian submarine would be destroyed. What happens next depends on Putin. Will he try to resolve the conflict, which has cost the lives of hundreds of his sailors, or will he start World War III? In conclusion, when a Russian submarine approaches, the carrier strike group commander reports the situation to his immediate superior, the fleet commander to which the group is assigned. The fleet commander then relays the information to the commander of the U.S. Navy, who's a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and reports to the U.S. Secretary of Defense. The chain of command ultimately reaches the President of the United States. All actions taken to neutralize the threat require approval from higher command. Now let's consider another scenario where the Russian submarine remains undetected by American sonar systems. Russian submarines are among the best in terms of stealth, second only to U.S. submarines. They're equipped with advanced technology that allows them to virtually disappear into the underwater world. These machines can remain submerged for weeks without showing any signs of their presence until they suddenly decide to surface. If a submarine surfaces near an aircraft carrier, it's not only a display of strength, but also a direct threat. The commander of the carrier strike group and the captain of the carrier must make quick decisions, as every second counts. Anti-submarine defense systems are immediately activated, coordination begins with aircraft, and the crew prepares for a potential escalation. No one knows what the enemy is planning, whether it's just a provocation or a prelude to a deadly torpedo strike. Provocations between rival powers happen frequently. Chinese ships spy on American aircraft carriers and come within close range. Russian planes perform aggressive interceptions of American aircraft and drones. We all remember the March 19, 2023 incident when a Russian Su-27 sprayed jet fuel on the U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone. These incidents heighten tensions between countries, but let's be honest, the chances of them escalating into war are almost zero. However, the sudden surfacing of a Russian submarine near an American aircraft carrier is a different kind of incident. First, there's the element of surprise. When an aircraft or ship approaches a carrier, there's advance notice and measures are taken, such as attempts to establish contact or, in extreme cases, warning shots. Here, the incident becomes highly tense in an instant. The carrier suddenly finds itself under the threat of a deadly attack. This is the second point. It's one thing when a spy ship approaches a carrier which doesn't even have the means to attack. It's quite another when a Russian 949A anti-class submarine surfaces a few miles away. Often referred to as an aircraft carrier killer, it carries P-700 Granite supersonic cruise missiles, each 33 feet long, which can be fitted with nuclear warheads. Before discussing how the U.S. might respond, let's consider why a Russian submarine would surface so close to an American aircraft carrier. First, it could be a show of force. In the constant standoff between superpowers, navies play the role of both defenders and diplomats. Surfacing near an American aircraft carrier is almost a direct insult, as if to say, you didn't even notice us and we can do whatever we want. But sometimes such a maneuver could be driven not by politics, but necessity. Submarines, despite their power, are still machines, and machinery can fail. The submarine may have surfaced due to technical problems, system failures, or the need for repairs. Even the most modern vessels are not immune to accidents, and the ocean, with its pressure and unpredictable conditions, adds an extra layer of risk. Additionally, human error cannot be ruled out. Even in a world of high-tech surveillance and satellite tracking, human factors remain important. Miscalculations, navigation errors, or system malfunctions could lead the submarine to surface closer to the carrier than intended. Each of these scenarios, a show of force, technical failure, or human error, opens the door to dangerous consequences. Surfacing near an aircraft carrier is always a challenge that cannot go unanswered. The question is how far each side is willing to go in this maritime standoff. Now let's talk about the U.S. response. A signal of combat readiness echoes through the internal communication systems. In an instant, everything on the carrier springs to life. Pilots rush to their jets. The crews of the escort ships go to heightened alert, and surveillance systems begin scanning every inch of water. The first priority is to accurately assess the threat. Is the submarine a hostile force ready to attack, or is this just a show of strength intended to intimidate? It should be noted that the sudden surfacing of a Russian submarine near an American aircraft carrier will not trigger an immediate strike. The U.S. will attempt to contact the submarine's command to understand their motives. The American commander knows full well that a submarine floating on the surface near a carrier is in no position to attack. There's a 99% chance that this is a show of strength and an attempt to insult the U.S. However, it's crucial not to give in to emotions or retaliate with weapons, as Putin could always claim the submarine surface due to a technical malfunction and paint the U.S. as the aggressor. In any case, the surfacing of a Russian submarine near an American aircraft carrier is more than just an incident. It's playing with fire, and it could lead to unpredictable consequences. Even if the surfacing was a demonstration of strength, the carrier group's response might be perceived as a threat, prompting the Russians to attack. Let's not forget the human factor. Officers on the bridge of the carrier or submarine might misinterpret each other's intentions. One wrong decision, panic, or a technical malfunction could turn the incident into a full-blown confrontation. One torpedo or missile and the situation spirals out of control. An attack on an aircraft carrier isn't just damage to a ship, it's an assault on the symbol of American military power, and retaliation in this case would be inevitable. The response would involve not just ships and planes, but also strategic nuclear forces. In other words, it would lead to nuclear war. Even if no weapons are fired, incidents of this magnitude don't go unnoticed. The UN, NATO, Moscow, and Washington would exchange harsh statements, and global markets would react with growing panic. In such a situation, even attempts to de-escalate could lead to further tensions if one side decides to demonstrate its resolve. The surfacing of a submarine near a carrier has the potential to expose deeper issues. Countries observing the incident might reassess their strategic priorities. An arms race could intensify with new naval bases and military alliances forming. Even if the conflict doesn't escalate into armed confrontation, the world could plunge into a new Cold War for years to come. As you can see, the approach of a Russian submarine to an American aircraft carrier or its sudden surfacing nearby is far more destabilizing than the approach of a ship or aircraft. If Putin chooses to do this, it'll be a clear signal that he's aiming to sharply escalate tensions globally and that he feels confident in his position. In this case, humanity will find itself not just on the brink of nuclear war, but hanging by a thread. What do you think could happen if a Russian submarine surfaced near an American aircraft carrier? Let us know in the comments. We'd appreciate your likes and subscriptions to our channel. See you soon.